Welcome to Module 2 of Author Your Brand. This module is called Vet, Set, and Forget. It's about outsourcing all the myriad of tasks and writing and editing and proofing, designing and SEO and layout and all the things you have to get done that you can't do by yourself. So we're going to talk about vetting your outsourcers, setting up systems so that you can forget about the overwhelm and focus on what you do best. Let's get started. This module is called Vet, Set, and Forget. It's about creating an empowering team for zero overwhelm in your life. If you haven't already imagined it, creating a book, a brand, getting it written, edited, proofed, designed, uploaded, published, marketed, SEO'd, reviews, monetizing it. There are a myriad of steps in getting a book done and this platform built. You will be unable to do it by yourself. Don't even think about that. It's not going to happen. Not in any short period of time. So you're going to get other people to help you out. Obviously, outsourcing is all the rage nowadays, but we're going to discuss very briefly some of the do's and don'ts, tricks and tips about getting the right team in place for your book and your brand and reducing your overwhelm to nearly zero. First of all, outsourcing is very, very important to understand how you want to go about it. There are different ways to approach outsourcing. One way is to look at tasks versus roles. Let me just discuss that real briefly. When you look at the people you need in your team, I need someone to build a web page just for my book. I need someone to SEO my website so I can get more traffic to it. I need someone just to edit my book. I need a writer. I need an interior designer. I need a cover designer. I need someone to help me with. There's a bunch of different tasks involved with creating your book. There are also roles. So let's discuss the differences between those two. A task is something as simple as I need a banner made for my website. A role would be I need a graphic designer to create all my stuff so it has a consistent theme across all my media. So when you take a look at things from an outsourcing perspective, do not start off with roles. If you hire a brand manager for your company, you'll spend a lot of time vetting that person against other brand managers. If you look at web designers, you'll be looking at perhaps 6 or 10 different designers before you settle in on one. This takes time to review. It's much easier to focus on tasks to get started. Have one person on a site, I'll show you in a minute, just make a banner for you. Have another person make a logo. Compare them. Spend a few dollars and use your tasks that you have to get done anyway to use that as your vetting system for defining the roles for your team, for your company. When it comes to communication will be critical. There are a lot of people who work on different time zones than you, of course, in the outsourcing world. But more important than the time zone will be the communication style people have. I'm a big fan of using, obviously, Skype or Google Hangouts to get things done across the globe. That's the way to do it. But some people have different lifestyles. They have different clients they're working with. So it's going to be really important to set the proper expectations with your team as you roll this thing out. I've always discussed with my outsourcers what their other jobs are, how much time they have available, what time can I communicate with them, because from a personal standpoint, I want to speak with my outsourcers on a daily basis. We'll get into the details of that in this module and in our premium module to a much higher degree. But I want to give you some outlines for doing that right off the bat. So number one, where are these people? Select your team based on a few factors, not just their experience level and not just their performance, but their culture perhaps, and their attitude, and their actual output. What have they done in the past? There are different sites out there. There's a bunch of wonderful places you can go. There are portals where there are literally thousands of very highly skilled, affordable people to help you build your brand, your website, your book, the whole shoot and match. There are generic sites and specialty sites. I'm going to focus on mostly the generic sites. When you go to these sites, we'll get into these real briefly here, there's also companies that have a suite of people there, and there are individual freelancers. You can go to Freelancer.com and hire a single person, or you can hire an entire company to do everything for you. They're still outsourcers, but they have a team of people there. And there are advantages and disadvantages to each method. We'll get into that in a second. Fiverr is obviously one of the coolest sites out there. It's anything for $5. You can get a logo made. You can get an article written. You can get a video made. You can get almost anything you can imagine can be done for $5 or more. Not everything costs $5, but they break up everything into what's called a $5 gig. So you can have an entire website built for perhaps 5 or 10 gigs. It's a beautiful thing. So for 50 to 100 bucks, a whole site can be done. We have also Elance, which is a little bit, in my opinion, a little bit higher end type of site where you can get find some wonderful writers and editors there. One of my favorites is Odesk. Odesk is a really unique system where I found a bunch of people that I have their names and contact information in our premium membership. But Odesk has really good screen capture. So if I have a guy working on one of my SEO campaigns or one of my websites, Odesk itself captures that person's desktop computer screen every 15 minutes and sees what they're doing. They got to log into Odesk in order to get paid by me. So it's this rather intrusive monitoring that I happen to like, since it's my bill, right? I'm the one paying for it. So I love it. I'm like, okay, he was working on my stuff. Well, this is what he did. Oh, that's pretty cool. Or he's going the wrong direction here. So you're going to communicate with them anyway versus a chat, very rarely on the phone, but occasionally on the phone, mainly on a chat basis. But having that screen capture is an additional way to see what's going on your project. So I love Odesk. I've used all of these sites. I've used every single one of them listed here, and they all have their benefits, a few of them their drawbacks, and there's more detailed reporting on my opinion on those in other reports. On a specific site, specialty sites, the only one that really makes a difference for me was 99 Designs. There's some writer sites out there as well. We'll get into that later, but right now 99 Designs is a great competition-based site where you decide, I want to spend, let's say, $100 for a logo, or I want to spend $300 for a logo. Designers come to your basic contest and they'll submit a full design based on your prize. And they're going to do the best work in order to get that prize. So the more you decide to budget for that, so I decided to budget $500 for a logo. I'm going to have 30 or 40 or perhaps 50 designs. I only budget 100. I may get 10 or 15 people offering to try to win that contest. It's a great system. It's fun to play with. I highly recommend it. I've had some superlative work there done for just a few bucks. So I'll definitely check all these sites out, and we'll talk about how to organize them here at a later date. So what do your freelancers need? Before we talk about your needs, let's focus on the other person for a moment. Outsourcing baby steps with tests and interviews. Before you go hog wild, because you're gonna get very excited going to these sites and see you can get a full-time assistant, very well versed in search engine optimization, web design, back-end programming for like $3, $5 an hour. I've got a guy building the Author Your Brand website, right? He built that. It cost me $6 an hour. I'm not going to tell you how many hours we put into it. But it's a beautiful site, I believe, and my designer is, I also share his contact information in our premium version of this. So when we get to talking about outsourcers, I want to talk about doing a test assignment. People can put, it's funny, I've had portfolios shown to me by outsourcers, and I had two different people, right? Two different outsourcers saying, here's my portfolio, and in their portfolio I saw the same website. So one of them was either lying or they worked at the same place, I'm not sure what, but you've got to test these people out, not just with their portfolios, but I love giving them a little cookie. And instead of saying, here's my website, go build it, hey, you know what? Could you show me something here? Could you build a one-page site? Could you show me a template? Could you do this thing for me? But don't ask to do stuff for free. These people are working their tails off. So 99% of the time I will offer to pay them, a fee for even looking at something. I pay guys, $10 just to look at something and give me their analysis of it. It's a small price to pay to sort of basically test their knowledge base. The second thing is being social. I'm going to not stress this enough, but when I'm dealing with people in the eastern part of this planet, we're talking the Philippines, Thailand, anywhere in Asia, there's a huge cultural difference between Western and Eastern philosophy of interpersonal relationships and the idea of saving face and being shy. So you're not going to be talking the phone very frequently, if at all, with any Eastern-based freelancers. More importantly, it's important to treat them as human beings. I can't tell you how many times that I've heard or seen other Western entrepreneurs, bosses, whatever you're going to call them, Talk to these people like they're robots and say, do this, okay, great, done. How about please and a thank you? How about how was your day? What's your kid's name? Don't spend a lot of time on this because some of them can talk your ear off, but they are very, very excited about Western culture and working for a Western boss. So understand that it's actually revered in the Philippines to work for somebody in the West as opposed to here where it's revered to be an entrepreneur. But when you're talking with them, don't forget to be polite. You know, they're not going to come over for dinner. Don't worry about that. But you do want to be polite and ask them about their family and whatnot to break the ice. And they will jump through hoops for you. The third point on this is encouraging mistakes. Quite often, there is a language barrier, and you've got to explain things in minutia to make sure they understand what you need or what you want for whatever tasks you're assigning these people to. So it's important to say, listen, I know you're going to make a mistake. It's okay to make a mistake. Because they are so worried about saving face, there are hundreds of examples of a freelancer making a mistake, and then because they want to save face instead of face the music, they just don't respond. They don't even call back. And I had a virtual assistant who works for me right now, in fact, made a mistake on something, and I'm like, ooh, that's wrong. And he didn't talk to me for days. And I had to really encourage him, say, hey, really, it's okay. It's okay to make a mistake. I don't mind that, as long as we learn from it and move along. So where are these people? There's a big, huge difference between, obviously, regions and countries, and the biggest difference is in Western versus Eastern, which we already covered. You'll find a lot of freelancers. I mean, there's a TV show and a movie called Outsourcing, and based on India. There's a lot in the Philippines, and some great programmers in Eastern Europe, and the United States is not out of the question, especially when it comes to writing, which we'll get to in another module. But all these areas of our planet have their pros and cons, have their strengths and weaknesses when it comes to hiring freelancers. Everything I say about different cultures and nationalities is totally based on work and my opinion. It's not based on race at all. Be really clear. This is my big disclaimer. When I tell you that I have a better response from a cultural standpoint in the Philippines versus India, it's my experience. It's nothing to do with race, right? Because I have got one guy in Bangladesh who is just wonderful. So when we get to Western versus Eastern, understand there's some big differences there. There's some material in your course that talks about the cultural nuances of all these countries. I highly recommend you take 10-15 minutes and go through those so that when you're engaging these people from any of these countries, you speak from this place of understanding and awareness of what it's like to live where they live and what it's like to live where they live and work for someone like you, right? Put yourself in their shoes. But you can't do it from a Western perspective. You've got to do it from your perspective. Now keep that in mind. Conclusion. The conclusion of this is patience. Be patient with yourself. Be patient with your outsourcers and take baby steps. Give them test assignments. Take small tasks. Don't jump in headlong into a whole full-blown website with somebody you just got started and hired them full-time. Take a baby step, task, part-time, take a few months before you hire anybody full-time. And there's a whole lot more information on outsourcing. I've got a lot of modules here to cover, but I wanted to give a brief overview on this one. And that concludes this one, and we'll look to see you in the next one. If you are not already a subscriber to our newsletter, please do so. There's more interviews, content coming out on a weekly basis. You're going to love it.